Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. Happy draft day to all who celebrate first round of the draft tonight. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games. Joining me this afternoon, it is Mr. Flyperbole himself. It is Broad Street Hockey's Steve Jaco. What's going on today, Steve?
Bill, we made it. We're here at draft day. We've been talking about it for months at this point. I know these top 6 guys, top 8 guys, really, like in and out at this point. Like, I'm really ready for it. I'm excited. I mean, we were talking about a pre-show. This is exciting stuff. I feel like we talk about it a lot, but I mean, look, the Flyers are getting a talented guy in the top 6. Like, they've got 3 picks tonight. This is fun stuff. This is good stuff. And it just feels like there's some forward momentum with this franchise at last.
3 picks tonight in the first round. They'll start tomorrow. The draft begins at noon. The second round, they have 3 picks as of now in that round as well, plus a whole bunch of other picks. This is going to be a fun day, and it seems like there's so much uncertainty with this draft that we actually have the possibility of some action, some movement around the first round, maybe even higher in the draft than we usually say is possible. It's going to be a lot of fun, but a couple of house cleaning things here to get started. First and foremost, a lot of you watching us right now. If it's your first time, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the show. Hit the like button. Whether you are new or a regular, I make one demand, and it's that you hit that little thumbs up button and make me feel good about myself. Also, draft party tonight. That's right. Limited tickets still available. Chickies and Pete's in South Philly begins at 7. We'll be doing a live show. I'll be breaking down the entire draft. There's going to be guests. There's going to be fun, giveaways, all sorts of great stuff. You can get a $5 general admission ticket or a $55 VIP ticket, which includes a 3-hour open bar, which includes food, which includes a meet and greet with Bernie Perrant. Tickets available at allphly.com, but not many. Really not all that many. I kind of thought couldn't believe I was even going to do this today, but we do have a few. So I'm going to give all of the everyone who waited to the last minute, procrastinators. That's the word I was looking for. People like me, procrastinators.
Takes one to know one, right, Bill?
Yes. Yeah. Their final chance to get in tonight. And
that VIP package, by the way, is such a deal. If I wasn't there in this capacity, like, I'd be getting that no doubt, because 3-hour open bar, I could do $55 worth of damage real easy on that.
Yes. Yeah, man. With not even a question, quite honestly. All right. And for everyone who isn't a diehard subscriber, dear Lord, what are you doing? Now is the time, though. $36. Make your move. $36 for the year introductory offer. Get all the benefits of a diehard membership. Access to all of our premium content from our all-star cast of writers. As of, I think, yesterday, it was 16 pieces of just Flyers draft content. And there have been like 2 or 3 more since then. I started putting together a thread on Twitter, and it took so long. I was like, I'll come back. Like, there's like 8 or 9 in the links already. I was like, I got other stuff to do today than build this thread. So I'll come back to it at some point. But one of those people who has contributed so much to our draft coverage joins us now. It's our PHLY foreign correspondent and draft analyst, Alex Appleyard, is with us. Great to have you here, Alex. It's been a lot of fun leading up to this, breaking down all of the possibilities. Your 2 most recent pieces have been about Flyers second-round options and sleepers. But I want to ask you a couple of things about what we're hearing about the top of the draft right now and get your reaction. So the big rumor yesterday, and it seems to have carried into today, Alex, Anton Frandl possibly going number 2 and Michael Misa falling to Chicago at 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it would be surprising in my eyes. I really like Anton Frandl. I think anyone who read my article knows I think he can be a first-line NHLer and a premium goal scorer in this league with some physicality and good inside play to boot. But I do think Misa is more likely to stick down the middle, and he's just a more talented, skilled player with a higher likelihood of being, a proper star, like a 100-point player. Whereas I think Frandl's ceiling is more likely an 80 to 85-point guy. And, people have been running through the Barkov comparisons, but I mean, quite frankly, I don't think Frondell's as good an athlete as Barkov. He's extremely well conditioned, you know, a super hard worker for his age. I mean, you don't come in at over 200 pounds and still destroy the VO2 max test without being an incredible endurance athlete at very least. But he's not quite the athlete as Barkov, doesn't have the defensive presence of Barkov, and he's not as good a passer as Barkov, you know. For me, he's far more likely to become Rupert Hintz, you know, Barkov's countryman, than he is Barkov. So yeah, I would take Misa at number 2 if he's there all day over Frondell, even though I do love Frondell's game.
It really just feels like, oh, you know, those Chicago Blackhawks have had it tough this century. They deserve a little luck, like Michael Misa falling to them, you know, like, of course, that's what would happen. But I still kind of think it's going to be Misa. We will see how it plays out at the top of this draft. Now, it really feels, Alex, like the Islanders are making their move because they have to take Schaefer at 1. It's just, it would be malpractice. As great as Hagen's might be, and as fun of a story as it is to get the hometown kid, they're not very good. They have to get the best player, Matthew Schaefer, but it looks like they're working hard to get back into the top of this draft and get Hagen's. If that happens, and say it's ahead of the Flyers, what do you then think is Danny Briere's best case scenario at 6?
Well, I think if the draft then went as kind of people semi-expect, which obviously would be Schaefer, Misa, Frondell, and then Hagen's going off the board before the Flyers, I think then, for me, the best case scenario is either if Desnoyers falls and you get the center who might be a 1C, you know. I think it's not 100% that he's going to be a 1C. I think it's far more likely he's going to end up a good 2C, or Martone. You know, if it was me, I think I'd take Martone there because I think he's the BPA in terms of the likelihood to be a star. And he does provide a lot of the things, like I talked about, that the Flyers are missing. You know, I know he's a right wing, but I do think the way he plays in the offensive zone is suited to left wing because he already plays that size. He has the size. He has playmaking prowess. He's a fantastic net front guy on the power play. He's strong defensively. And after someone like Kashawn Aitchison and Brady Martin, he's one of the more physical guys in the draft. So he brings a lot of those. He brings a lot of tick boxes to what Flyers fans would really like. And it would be fun to see him here. And he interviewed with the Flyers and Bruins at the very last minute just before he flew out. So, you know, seems like they're not totally out on him. So, yeah, that would be my best case scenario, either Martone or if they went to see Desnoyers.
Yeah, I am. I'm big on either of those. Those would be wins that I wasn't expecting if that were to happen. So that would be a lot of fun.
I want some craziness, Bill. I want some craziness at the top.
I do want some wild stuff to happen. Yeah. Not just because we're content creators over here and wild stuff equals more views, but it just feels like we always get these all this movement, and then it's, what was the biggest trade? I don't know. The Flyers went from 12 to 13. Like, I feel like because of the uncertainty, and there seems to be a lot of different thoughts on, like, oh yeah, maybe Frondell is 2, maybe Roger McQueen is a top 7 pick, maybe he's at the 12th pick. I feel like there's so many different opinions about this draft that it just opens itself up to, team who's there doesn't really like the guy, team who wants to move up loves him, and you get some trades. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm just really hoping for a Mishkov type slip of somebody to just fall to us at 6 and just Danny Briere pounces on that.
I am just hoping to have not everyone go, who the hell are they talking about when they make the pick like last year? So,
but he proved us wrong pretty quick. But yeah,
listen, it looks like Jet's going to be good, but it was a disappointment on draft night. All right, Alex, one of your 2 pieces, you've put out a couple. I mean, you and Charlie have just been churning out the content. You tweeted yesterday there's 16 articles, and I think we've published like 2 or 3 since then. Like, we might be nearing 20 at this point. One of your most recent was second round options, and that's great for all of us who, yeah, man, I know the first 20, 25 guys. I can piece together some thoughts here. But once we get into the second round, I have no idea. I'm especially interested in the goalies because Jonesy spoke on the Anthony Gargano show today, and it seemed as if they're going to target a goalie maybe earlier than we're expecting. One of the goalies in your second round piece was Peter Andrianov. Is that right? What do you think about him? And I think Charlie mocked Frolov to the Flyers in the second round at some point.
Yeah, there's a lot of people are talking about this being a weaker draft, but one place I really don't think it is weak is in net. Obviously, you have Ravensbergen, who potentially might even go in the back end of the first. But then there's a real group after him of guys who, there's always a run on goalies. And I guess it starts when Ravensbergen goes. That might be in the very late first, he might be in the early second. And obviously with the Flyers having 3 picks in that range, there's a good chance they're going to use one of those on a goalie, I think. The second round is kind of characterized in my eyes by a trio of Russian goalies. So you have Andrei Arnav, you also have Frolov, who plays for Spartak, and then you have Medvedev, who plays for the London Knights, actually. And they're all kind of different goalies with the pros and the cons. And for me, Andrei Arnav is the most talented of the trio. He's 6'2", so he's got solid size, but not, what every GM is looking for with the 6'4" to 6'6" goalie, that they really want these days. But since he's been 15, 14 years old, he's been the top goalie in Russia ahead of Frolov and Medvedev. And in terms of his skill set, he's super athletic, really good skater, very good positioning. He's got a strong glove. He kind of has everything that you want from a goalie that age. And he's, this year he was at over 940 for CSKA's feeder team, their under 20 team in the MHL, and has constantly been dominant at the international level, even though they're playing, the likes of Kazakhstan and Belarus these days. And I do think if Russia had been able to go to the World Junior Under 18s, he would have been the starter, and he would have probably been higher on people's lists. And something else interesting with him is he signed a contract until 2030 earlier this week. So I think in a lot of people's eyes, he went from maybe the second goalie off the board or maybe third to potentially later than that. And I think that's interesting for the Flyers, because if they liked him, well, they'll go, well, instead of using one of those second picks, maybe we can just wait until the early third and potentially get him. And I do think the odds are he's going to be better than Frolov and better than Medvedev. His only real weakness is he has some issues with kind of post-integration play, really close to in around the net. He uses this reverse VH, and obviously, as multiple goalie coaches have commented on, there's pros and cons of that. And one of it is if you're not perfect with your positioning, you can leave gaps, especially under your glove and blocker arm, just over your pad. So that's his only real problem that I see in terms of him projecting as an NHL goalie. And now with Frolov, he's a lot more raw. He hasn't been as dominant at the junior level, but he's got a bigger frame. He's 6'4". He's just as athletic. And while he's going to have to improve a lot more, I think there's some GMs who see him more as this might be our Shesterkin or Sorokin or Vasilevsky or Bobrovsky, because they see that size and they see the athleticism combo and think, we can fix the flaws with time. And then Medvedev is interesting because he's maybe the most athletic of the trio and really positionally sound, and he's playing in the OHL, but he's probably the smallest of the three. I think he's listed at 6'1", so that will probably hurt his stock. So it's those three. And then another goalie name to keep an eye on in terms of guys who are a bit undersized is Ivankovic. Played in the OHL this season, super talented player, but he's 5'11", 6 foot. And if he was 6'2", he'd be talked about as a potential first-round pick. So, those 4 goalies, I think, are kind of the highlights of the second round. And it wouldn't be a shock to me if the Flyers either took Ravensburger with their final first-round pick or took one of those 4 goalies in the second. I think that seems quite likely. And if not, they might wait and see if any bigger talented guys fall to the third, or if Andrei Arnav falls to the third, because he's locked in now until he's 23 years old.
That was the real moment I had reading your article when it's signed a contract until 2030. I'm like, so what? We're going to get this guy when he's like 42 years old? And I was like, oh, right. He'll be 23 because, yeah, that's how time works. It keeps, okay.
But we just got a goalie who was 42 years old last year. We don't need that again.
I was just really confused. I was like, oh, right, it's 2025 and he's 18. All right, that makes sense. So those are the goalie options. You had a bunch of second rounders listed as potential players. Now, obviously, they have 3 picks instead of the 4, but still a substantial number in that second round, Alex. What other second rounders from that article do you think are legitimate options for Philly, assuming they make those picks, maybe fit with what they've targeted in the past?
Well, they've talked about athleticism, speed, and size on the back end repeatedly. I think it's less of an issue for them going off the reads I have and talk, obviously, around the league than it is up front. I think they're perfectly happy, quite frankly, to go and take 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot forwards, so long as they have the competitive nature and the high skill scoring ability. They think that isn't too big an issue. And I agree with them in general. I do think, it's more important to have some size on the back end in the NHL, whereas at forward, we've seen teams like Pittsburgh and Detroit Red Wings dominate the NHL with some of the smallest forward groups, the same as like Colorado Avalanche. Tampa Bay weren't the biggest group either, but size on the back end, especially a reach at the blue line and the way that the red line's been removed, obviously 20 years ago, I think it's a bit more important, even though skill still trumps all. So I think there's a good chance that the Flyers might take with one of their 3 picks a big a big smooth skating defenseman. And in this draft, there's about 6 of them who could go in that range, quite frankly. It's an interesting little niche. Usually these guys who are really raw, who are all going 4th, 5th round, you're like, they're big, they can skate a bit, okay, But this time there's like 6 guys who I think have a chance to go. And I highlighted one of them. I think he's the best of the bunch, which is Kurban Limitov, 6'4", 190. He plays for Dynamo Moscow, and he was probably the best draft. Well, he was the best draft eligible defenseman in the NHL this year. And he got a KHL game towards the end of the season. He's kind of Russia's number 1 at the under 18 level, even though, as I've said, they're not playing serious under 18 games recently. And he's got a really intriguing skill set. I think he's the most skilled of the bunch in terms of offense. And he also plays really aggressively. He's physical. He likes jumping into plays. He can carry a puck. He's got a really good outlet pass. And his real issues are he's great at the blue line, but once it gets established in the defensive zone, for a guy who's probably 200 pounds and 6'4", he could assert himself more. It's not that he's not physical. It's that he just chooses the wrong reads, goes to the wrong places at times, and he seems to have some trouble at times with retrievals. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, if you get a good defensive coach, you think you can probably coach him up in those areas because he has the raw tool set and he has that aggressive nature that you need in the modern NHL to be a successful blue line entry denier and also get the rush going the other way. For me, there's like shades of Braden Coburn in kind of how Braden Coburn played when he was young. Coburn, when he came into the NHL, was more of an offensive puck-moving defenseman than he was like a shutdown guy. And over a couple of years with the Flyers, he really developed into that. And you can see kind of some of the same. Obviously, he's not as physical as Coburn. He's not a fighter. The league has changed in the last 20 years. But there are elements to his game that are reminiscent. And then there's another 5 guys who are all, there's two of the lefties, Jakob Rombach, who plays for Lincoln Stars in the USHL, who might be my second favorite of these guys because he also has legitimate puck skills. I don't think he has the puck skills Limitov has, but I think there's a chance he might put it all together and become a number 4 or 5 defenseman if things go perfectly. He's a monster. He's like 6'6" and 210 right now. Really impressive player. And then you have also Wang, like similar size, 6'6", 210 pounds, but he's a lot more raw, and a lot of people are really high on him, and it's a great story. And he's undoubtedly one of the best kind of athletes in the draft. He's 6'6", he's 210, he moves incredibly well, and he hasn't played high-level hockey for a very long time. People see things in him, and I can legitimately see, even though if he ever made the NHL, he'd be an enormous statistical outlier because guys who play 17, 18 minutes a night in the OHL in their draft year and get 2 points in 30 games don't become NHLers. But he is such a unicorn in terms of his skating and size that maybe he can do it. But I wouldn't be taking him in the second round because for me, a play with that profile is more likely a 3rd, 4th round risk type pick. When you have guys like Rombach and Limitov and some of the other guys I'll talk about in a second, I can see the appeal, but it's a bit too rich for me. Okay. And then you have 3 righty defensemen who are all kind of fit a similar mold, although I don't think they're quite as skilled. You have Sean Barnhill, Dubuque Fighting Saints. 6'5", 220 pounds, quick feet, denies rushes, jumps into the play. He's a guy who, of the 3 righty guys, you think maybe he could be a number 4. And then the 2 other guys, Carter Amico from the US national team, maybe the biggest player in the draft, all things considered, 6'6", 235, 40 pounds. And then Max Pasnica, who's a Czech kid, played for Portland Winterhawks this year, and has some talent, but kind of needs to put it together. So it wouldn't be a shock for me if the Flyers took one of those 6 guys. If it was me, I'd lean towards Limitov, or if you were, hoping one of them fell into the 3rd round to take it, it would be Rombach for me. But I can see the Flyers taking one of those guys in the 2nd.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, I love to hear about the defensive depth in this draft because you've been keying in on center so much for this team. But the defense, they have a lot of guys good at the NHL level right now, but outside of Oliver Bonk, I don't know how much is really deep in the system. So I'd love to see a few defenders taken in this draft. And there's also a lot of guys with size. So it's exciting for me.
Yeah, in our mock draft yesterday, I didn't tell Charlie we could make trades, and so I had the Flyers trading up to 13 to take Kashawn Aitchison just because, I want the big guy who scores all the goals and just knocks people out. But we will see where they go defensively. In your sleepers article, I just want to know, looking at what the Flyers lack, it is high upside, maybe a riskier guy, but someone whose ceiling is above maybe where they could draft him. And as you mentioned, size, especially on the back end. For that sleepers article, Alex, who do you think fits like those characteristics for Danny Briere?
Well, funnily enough, this year, in the last few drafts, I would have had a guy who's perfect to fit the bill. And this draft, funnily enough, I was going through some kind of CHL, USHL data, the underlying statistics, just to see if I'd missed anyone. You can only watch so many games a year. And sometimes guys in third, fourth line roles, like, wow, they've scored at this rate per minute and drove play like this. And last year, that guy was Kieran Walton, who I thought, maybe there's something really there. And the year before that was Protas. And there's not a guy like that this year, quite frankly. As much as I've looked, as much as I've thought, is there a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guy who's utilized in a smaller role who can really explode? I don't think there's a high likelihood of one. So if I'm honest, I don't think there is that guy later in the rounds in this draft. And I think that the guys who usually would be that, Florida have pushed people so far the other way that they're going to be taken early. For example, guys like Prokhorov and Nestrasil, when you look at their raw production in previous drafts, they'd be going third, fourth, fifth round. And you'd be like, okay, taking a guy like that in those range, I think that's a good swing. But where they're going to go is a bit too rich for me. So yeah, the easy answer to that is I don't think there is a guy who quite fits that bill. Maybe the closest, and I'll maybe reach in a bit here, there's a guy called Linus Funk, which is also a fantastic name, who plays for Luleå. He's a righty defenseman, 6'3", 6'4", moves really well, has a physical streak, and moves the puck really well. Like at under 18 level, he was a good scorer. So he's a guy who might go in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round, actually. If he was there, there's a thought that maybe he can become like a Nicholas Hjalmarsson if everything went perfectly 10 years to the it's not going to happen. It's a 99 centile outcome. But he's a guy who I think I'd be interested in taking in the 5th, 6th, 7th because he has the tools. He needs to refine some of his skating, but he's a fast skater. It's more about some edge work. And he has the offensive game and can move a puck. So he's a guy who might fit the bill on the back end. I didn't write about him in my sleepers article. He was actually one of the guys I thought about putting in and then preferred other guys. And then another guy who he's not as big, but he's physical and he's a good skater is Will Sharp. Yeah, I love Will Sharp's game, but he's a total riverboat gambler of a defenseman right now. He started the season for Lethbridge, who are a real powerhouse and was playing 20 minutes a night for them, playing really well. And then he got moved to Kelowna. And Kelowna are probably the worst team in the WHL the final half of the season. And he was asked to play 25, 26 minutes a night in all phases of the game. And basically, it seemed like, I'm not sure how much of it was him and how much was the team, just saying, hey, guy, you're the most talented guy we have. Just go out and do your thing. And he basically was playing as a rover. And he scored like 3 end-to-end goals that were unreal. Like dangled past 4 guys, put it top corner, backhand for a defenseman. There was one where he went around the net, around the back of the net and wrapped it round the wrong way, put back on himself. So he's an incredible talent, and he went 11th overall in the WHL draft. And I think his final half of the season, he was minus 41 in 31 games for Kelowna to finish the year because they were awful. But he's physical. He's quite good at his own blue line. He just needs to clean up things. He's the kind of guy he has all the tools to be a number 4 defenseman. He just needs to, as I said in the article, take the tools from the shed floor and put them all in a toolbox because right now they're scattered absolutely everywhere. So he's a guy who's really intriguing to me. And some guys, the highest I think he's ranked almost anywhere is kind of 120, 130. But he has the production. He was one of the top 10 scorers at 5v5 in the WHL for defensemen this year. He can run a power play and he's physical, even though he needs to clean up on defense. So there's something there with him.
Outstanding, Alex. Looking forward to having you join us on Saturday's show. We're going to be live for like 4 hours during the 2nd through 7th rounds of the draft. We're going to get your reactions. We're going to see if Flyers took any of your sleepers, any of your second-round options, anyone from you and Charlie's predictions. So we're looking forward to that. Let the people know where to find you on social.
Yeah, you can find me at AV Appleyard on Twitter. And you can also follow Smart Scouting for more information on the draft. We have a top 100 that we've put out, and we should be putting out a mock draft today up to number 64. So that will be interesting as well.
Outstanding. Great to hear from our PHLY foreign correspondent and draft analyst, Alex Appleyard. We will talk to you again tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking second rounders, I hope we come away with Alexander Zhuravsky, if I'm honest. That's the guy for me.
Yeah, I think Charlie's very high on him as well. So looking forward to that. All right, that is Alex Appleyard. And now we have to take a brief second for our first commercial break. 1-800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Empire Today, I have been telling you for months upon months now, you got to understand that they are the place for new flooring, and it is because the experience is like none other, simply due to the fact that they have the flooring experts. It's not like going into a big box store where, well, I took measurements that are kind of close. Let me see if I can find someone to talk to. Oh, they have no idea what they're talking about. Let me just get all the supplies, bring them home. Oh, this project's way more detailed than I thought. Let me call a contractor, spend a ton of money. No, that's not the case at Empire, because Empire has those flooring experts. They live and breathe flooring, and they'll be with you every step of the way. And they can bring the showroom right to your home. No need to go looking for them. They will come to you. That's right. You can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space, in your space, and see how it all looks with your furniture in your house up against your paint colors. And they take those precise measurements for you and have all your questions answered, so there are never any surprises. And with Empire Today, you get that clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. And PHLY listeners, listen up. That's right. You can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right. $350 off with code PHLY. Some restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details. And now we've got to tell you about Pico. Charlie, I walked into my garage yesterday and it was a sauna in there.
Yeah, this Philly heat, especially now, it's no joke.
This humidity is here. So what I ended up doing, I got like 20 bags of ice. I went into my backyard, filled a baby pool with them. Nice little inflatable I have back there. Did a little cold plunge.
Why didn't you just turn on your air conditioner?
I'm trying to be energy efficient. I hear the cold plunges are good for you. You seem like a cold plunge kind of guy. And I'm trying to save a little bit of cash as well.
Okay, well, instead of filling up a baby pool, and I don't believe you have any children, William, but instead of filling up a baby pool that you don't yet need, you could just check out Pico's energy saving rebates. They've got deals on Energy Star cooling equipment that actually work and cut your bills.
So no more ice?
It's the summer. Flyers aren't playing. They've already melted all the ice in the rink.
Yeah, that seems like what's up. I'm going to have to check this out. It seems like the way to go, Charlie. Thank you.
So just head to pico.com/ways to save. They've got tips for everything: heating, cooling, lighting, you name it.
All right, we are back. Charlie's face when I tell him he seems like a cold plunge guy is like, the hell does that even mean?
But that was high quality entertainment right there, Bill. I enjoyed every second of that.
I did as well. I thought that was just like a preview, and then we were gonna like pre-record it again once we knew what we were doing, and they're like, nah, that's good. And so okay.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. No notes.
Glad to know that it all worked out. And now we have another clip I want to set up here. Keith Jones was on the Anthony Gargano show right here on the PHLY YouTube page this morning. I was part of that cast as well, and there's just this one answer he gives about his the team's draft philosophy tonight that I think fans are going to find really interesting. So, Julia, if you have it, can we cue that up?
I'm excited for Jonesy.
Me too.
Always love
great
Jonesy.
here. Okay, here we go.
How do you approach tonight, right? So seeing it's 6 and the way the board it looks, I mean, looks like we're going to come away with a real piece. Do you look at it like, hey, it's all about the best available option with upside and not like we're going to force feed center? How do you approach it from a philosophical? Because I'm not going to ask you about players. We know that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, it's always about what fits best at that moment in time and how you project that to fit into your future. There's projection involved in every draft. You're doing the best job that you can do, that what you believe in as a staff. You're taking a lot of opinions, and then ultimately Danny will make the choice on which guy fits us best. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a team that's going to be able to sustain success over a long period of time, and you're looking for a player that can help provide that. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it. There's a ton of meetings that take place. There's a ton of live viewings of these players that our scouting staff has really accumulated a lot of air miles this year with the number of picks that we have. But the most important pick is pick number 6. So you can rest assured there's been a lot of work put into it.
Listen, I know, man. I'd be like, where are you at? Like, you didn't even know. Half the time I'm texting you like, I can't even tell you where I am right now. I just know I'm watching players. You guys, we're scouring the earth for this. But like you said, this is such a monumental draft. Having 3 picks in the first round, having 3 picks tomorrow in the second round. I mean, this is a franchise kind of moment to really kind of get the foundation of the future.
Yeah, it's really part of the way that we kind of looked at it a couple of years ago when Danny and I really got started. This was a very important year for us. This draft is an important draft. The accumulating of assets and draft capital has really taken place over the last 2 years. We still have some in the future. The 27 draft looks like, we've got some good pieces to that one as well, which is, that's also something that we're keeping in mind, whether or not that's to move some of those assets for players like Trevor Zegras along the way, players like that.
Yeah.
Something better. So you need that. You need to keep yourself in the game. You need cap space available to do that. And, we're starting to get some of those things that are falling into place with, an eye on the near future, but a bigger, pair of eyes on the future. So I think that's where we're at in our evolution right now. And I'm very pleased at where we're sitting and feel really good about today.
What did you learn from these playoffs and, culminating with an incredible series with Florida and Edmonton about where the league is and where the league is headed?
Yeah, the league is where it was 5 years ago and 10 years ago as well. I mean, the guys that come through in the playoffs are unique talents, but they need a great mix around them. So, it's an interesting thing to follow. Florida has, proven over the last 3 years, making it to the Stanley Cup final, which is so impressive in a salary cap era, that a certain type of player really comes to the forefront in the playoffs. So there's a lot to be said about players like Sam Bennett. I think you guys have probably talked a lot about that. I know Bill has, and Charlie. It makes sense, but it's the character comes through, but you got to get there too. So you do need a mix. You need high-end talent. You need grit, determination. You need a lot of things to fall into place. But when you have, a lot of different assets and a lot of different, players that we'll come away with after the draft, over the next 2 days, those are all pieces that can help you build that foundation. And then you go out and add a few pieces along the way to try to get it right. So
yeah, it's interesting because like your point about Bennett's so right. I was talking to Boosh.
That's the part I wanted to play. We were able to find it.
He's going to go somewhere, and he's not going to score with the proficiency he did in the playoffs. He's a playoff player, right? Like, so, the fan base, wherever he goes, the fan base is going to get a little agitated because he's going to get a lot of money and there's going to be a lot of expectations to score. But that kind of kid is great in the playoffs, right? Like, that's a playoff moment. So you almost have to.
All right, Steve. So that's the part I wanted to play, is what they learned from the playoffs. And we have talked so much. And thank you, Julia. I know I gave you like terrible instructions for like when and what to play, but you were able to find exactly what I was looking for. Like,
you need a Bill translator on these shows,
Yeah. I was there and totally forgot like when this part of the conversation happened. But
it's all a blur when you're just, talking BS about the Flyers. All day.
It was 2 hours ago. I have no memory of it. But the idea that, the Flyers especially, they love Brady Martin. That's been the talk. And I think a lot of our listeners are like, oh, of course it's going to be Martin. They're going to do the Flyers thing. And listen, they very well could. Like, that very well could be something that they're like, you know what? We think we need this guy. But Jonesy's answer to that of, yeah, those types of players, they are hard to come by. They do tend to have some more playoff success playing a certain way. But you still need the mix. As we've been saying all along, like, you know what the Flyers don't have? A bunch of really good players. Like, oh, well, this guy might only put up 50 points, but he's going to be great for you in the playoffs. And it's straight up like playoffs. Like
Playoffs?
let's get there first and then see if these guys are any good at it. You know,
Yeah.
we have no idea if Trevor Zegras can play in the playoffs. What if he happens to be Danny Briere? Yeah, I know we talk about size and physicality, and like, listen, Danny was feisty. He certainly didn't back down. But he's like Charlie's size, maybe shorter. But he's also one of the best playoff performers I've ever seen. Jonathan Marchessault won a Conn Smythe. Like, it doesn't always have to be this thing. And hearing
think
from
about that
Jonesy
2010
there,
team.
yeah,
Think about the 2010 team, Bill. Like, you had Briere, right? But you also have Hartnell. You have Ville Leno, who was a playoff performer out of nowhere. But you also have Mike Richards on the third friggin' line on that team. You have Simone Gagne. You have Jeff Carter. You have Claude Giroux. You have Chris Pronger. You have Kimo Timonen. Those are all different players. Like,
yeah.
And that was what was great about that team and why I was so bummed when it was broken up, because, like, that team had a great mix
You
of
had the
guys,
mix.
of, like, feisty guys, talented guys, all over the place. The only thing that was really missing was goaltender, and, well, the less said about that, the better, because we've
I
talked
wonder
that
if
to
that
death.
would hurt them in some way during that season. Like, if somehow,
You know, you never
over
know.
the next 2 years, they botched the position so badly, we end up where we are now, 15 years later.
Who's to say?
Anyway, trip down memory lane aside, we have all summer to do what if stuff.
I'm in for
Just
that.
hearing
anytime.
Jonesy say that, like, yeah, there's still, I think, a distinct possibility. They go, you know what? We need Brady Martin, and we think he is going to be Mike Richards, a guy who can have a 30-goal season, a couple 70, 80-point seasons, and therefore we think it's worth the 6th overall pick. And while, like Charlie has even said, okay, you can disagree with that, but if that's their reasoning, okay. But it seems as if they're just as open to going, James Higgins, Jake O'Brien, Porter Martone, whoever, they're not going to be beholden to any sort of player type simply because Florida's awesome. Do I think this team needs to get bigger and tougher? Definitely, in spots. Should that be their primary concern? No, because you can always trade Jonathan Drouin for Mikhail Sergachev. You can always make that happen. And so,
Right.
it was encouraging. Were you as encouraged by that? Like, did I read too much into it? Or are you just as encouraged by, like, we're not going to focus on this one thing that everyone thinks we're going to focus on?
I'm encouraged by that, but I'm also just encouraged by the track record of this club over the past couple of years with Briere and Jonesy. I feel like they haven't really made a lot of stereotypical old school Flyers moves. And I haven't really felt strongly like they were going to get Brady Martin. I feel like the people saying they're going to get Brady Martin are the people that haven't been paying that much attention and think same old Flyers. Really, the one guy at this point I'm kind of convinced they're going to get if they don't get Higgins. I'm hoping for Higgins personally if he falls that far, but I really feel like Jake O'Brien might be the guy, because I keep seeing Jake O'Brien chatter out there, and they're from guys that are a little bit more, like, I feel like get the philosophy a little bit more, that vision and all that they talk about with him. And I would prefer they get one of the guys set in the top 6, but it feels to me like if they don't get one of those guys, O'Brien is going to be the guy, because he seems to fit the philosophy a little bit more. And look, I'm not going to complain. Like, I'll probably love Brady Martin if they end up getting him, because he will smash guys in the face and score goals, which is like the Flyers way, right?
I like those things.
I like those things a lot, but I also like high-end skill. Personally, I'm hoping Higgins falls that far. Right now, the big thing is the Islanders. I keep hearing chatter that the Islanders want to try and get in the top 5, top 6 to get Higgins because he's the hometown boy. I mean, as you said earlier, they'd be nuts to not go with Schaefer at number 1. And now you're hearing a lot of chatter about them trading Noah Dobson, which, I guess it's because they don't think they can afford him, and then like Schaefer in the future.
He wants like
or whatever.
10 mil. Yeah.
I think it was 11 is what I saw
11.
just before.
Oh, well.
I checked Twitter a few minutes ago and like it was saying 11. So like,
They're going to
Noah
keep
Dobson
saying
is great,
he's
but
or until their fan base goes, oh, well, then get rid of him. Yeah.
right, exactly. And that's the game that they play,
Yeah.
right? And that's one of the things I really like about the Briere and Jones administration. I guess I'm going to call it, like, it's a presidential administration.
Yeah.
But Briere and Jones, like, they seem to play the media game so well. You think back to Cutter Gauthier, they were immediately out there going like, well, he wouldn't talk to us, so, and he didn't want to be a Flyer. So,
They handled that, like, the propaganda was, it was so, and like, forget the fact that, like, I want to believe them and it kind of worked. Like, the fact that they handled it the way they did to, like, set it up for, oh, they're going to be good at this. Like,
Yeah.
they understand the market. They got what they could. They kept it under wraps as long as they could. They've done a lot in the last few months, especially.
Well, let's think about Monday. Let's think about Trevor Zegras, right? That was on nobody's radar.
The patience, yeah.
It was on nobody's radar, and then all of a sudden you're podcasting with Charlie in the middle of the day, and this huge trade comes in, and that's a high-end talent guy that they're taking a very minute amount of risk on. Like, it's really a no-brainer to trade Ryan Poehling, a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick, for a guy who could be a top 6 forward on your team. No-brainer.
Yeah, like my point after that trade was made like the next day, because it broke during our show, was, I don't know, Danny kind of had to do this if this was the price. Like, this was yes. Like, you're at the grocery store and it's like, oh man, like all the Reese cups in the store for $6? Yeah.
Buy one, get one free candy cakes? All right, let's go.
Exactly. Like, of course I'm going to do this. And the patience he showed to make that happen for the price after, like, what we heard the price was, maybe they wanted Zegras back during the Cutter negotiations and make it a bigger trade, and they just couldn't quite get it to work. And last year, okay, maybe there's something here last offseason, but the price is still super high. And then after he has the injury-plagued bad season, it's, yeah, we'll give you our 4C and 2 non-premium picks. Oh, okay, done. Like, have to. Even if you don't particularly like Zegras' like player type or whatever, it's worth the risk at this price.
It's worth the risk for the creativity, and it shows me that they believe in high-end talent. It shows me that they believe in building this franchise for the modern NHL. You know, Jonesy talked about the past 5 to 10 years of NHL hockey being the same. He didn't talk about the past 20 years. You know, when he played the game, when Jonesy played the game, it was a very different game than even when Briere was in his prime.
Yeah.
Jonesy was Jonesy was on like one of those Junior Legion of Doom lines briefly, right? With LeClaire and Lindros. Totally different game. Clutch and grab era, big guys all over the place. Like, that was just the game you had to play. And nowadays they know. And Briere, one of the best things I like about Briere is the GM. Smaller guy who's played the modern game and succeeded in the modern game. He knows it's about skill. He knows it's about speed. They're getting guys like that. So it gives me a lot of hope that whoever falls to them at 6, they will make the right decision and go with the best available player. Because I'll tell you, if it's Martone, I really would not mind that at all. I know he's a wing, but everything I've heard about Martone sounds fantastic. And you have Martone, Mishkov, Forrester, Drysdale in your top, Konechny in your top 6. Like, you're cooking with some gas there.
All right, I want to talk about our draft preferences in just a second, but first we have to take our second commercial break. I got to tell you about the Hall of Fame app. That's right, because listen, we've all been there. Your parlay, it's one leg away, and then a relief pitcher gives up a walk-off bomb in the 9th, and you are heartbroken. If that sounds familiar, the HOF app is built to fix that. Started by 2 lifelong sports fans who also happen to be Ivy League grads, HOF makes parlay research smarter, faster, and data-driven. This isn't just your buddy's group chat, like, oh, a celebrity died. Time to throw a Castellanos home run into my parlay. It is not that. It is a full analytics engine. The Hall of Fame app gives you access to advanced stats, historical data, and powerful tools to help you bet smarter. The app is built for the everyday sports fan, so it's easy and intuitive to use. You'll get an idea of your parlay's chances to hit and identify weak legs so you can weed them out before you place them. That's what I love about it, honestly, is how easy it is to use. You put in your parlay, what you're thinking about, and then with just one tap, after you identify the weak legs, maybe work it around a little bit, one tap takes you to your sports book of choice, and you can place the bet just like that. Even for the novice sports gambler, this is one hell of an app. And for a limited time only, our listeners not only get a 7-day free trial, but they also get 50% off their first month when they use code PHLY at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android, or visit hofbets.com, enter code PHLY, and you're all set. And speaking of your sportsbook of choice, you all know mine is Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I was on there earlier this morning checking out some draft position spots for some prospects tonight, and I am looking forward to placing some bets with Bet365. You know I am a big fan of theirs from the over 800,000 live events streamed each year, the early payouts across the NBA and NHL, and those 90 million users worldwide. It is my sportsbook of choice. And we have breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Win or lose, that's right. All you got to do, sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, whether your initial bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Steve. So I asked Alex about some of his best and worst case scenarios for tonight. What, like, if you had to rank the likely guys to be available at 6, how would you go about it?
So
Like, who are you thinking of as your reach, and then who? Okay, I'll be happy with them. Disappointed with this. Like, how would you place it with the dudes who probably will be there?
reaches are easy for me because that's Brady Martin and Roger McQueen. Easy. Like Roger McQueen is fascinating because of his height. 6'5" is like unbelievable size, but like he's also like a skinnier guy and also the back problems. And I don't know. He's just too much of an unknown for me. I would feel though, if the Flyers drafted him, they've done a lot of homework and feel really confident in that, but it still seems like a reach to me. Brady Martin, again, I love a lot of what I hear about him. I like the physicality. I like the attitude.
Want him so bad.
I want him, and like if they could get another pick to get up there and get him, I would be into it. But it still feels like a reach to me. Best case scenarios. Hagens, big Hagens fan. I don't know why he's fallen, but I'll gladly take him up if the Flyers feel confident in his abilities. And look, they gave him a tour the other day. Like, I think they like the guy. Martone, I'd be thrilled with. Be really thrilled if Martone fell and they got Martone. Desnoyers, it seems like Desnoyers seems like a lock for the top 5 at this point, but he seems like a real Flyers player. He seems like he's got the whole toolkit that really they like. They like those smart players, those Sean Couturier types, right? That can kind of do it all and play a good two-way game. So I'm really into that. And then, like, I'm trying to think who else could possibly fall. Because the only guys I know that aren't falling are Schaefer and Misa. And Frondell. I don't think Frondell.
It seems like Frondell's going 2 or 3.
If Frondell came to 6, easy.
That would
smash that draft button.
Don't care about anything else. Take him. Yeah. You can trade the other 2 picks for whatever, and I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, and by the way, with the other 2 picks, I got no strong feelings on those. Like, there's some good players available from what I've seen. I like, you've got some defensemen with size. I like Fiddler a lot in that position. And then like you've got some centers with size at that point. So even if you go Martone early, you can take a center later in the round.
Yes.
And you could get a guy with a lot of potential. Maybe not 1C potential, but somebody that could be your middle, like your second or third line center. And that's not nothing. That's pretty darn good right there. Because you've still got Jet in the pipeline and you can always get more guys, right? There's always ways to get more guys. But yeah, ultimately, I think I want to just bet on the skill. I want to go with a Hagens. I want to go with a Desnoyers, a Martone. Just your best available player. Don't reach. Get the best guy.
That's Desnoyers and Martone seem like, probably won't be there. But if one of them is, I'm very happy with that pick. I think like Hagens will probably be available. Take him. Like if he's there, do it. After that, man, I think I know I'm like dead wrong about Jake O'Brien, so that's fine. And if they take him and I don't like it and he turns out to be great, like awesome. Why are you listening to me? We have like drafted analysts.
Right. I mean, he seems fine, but like he doesn't seem exciting.
I think there are 2 plausible outcomes for him. One is Claude Giroux. Yes. Sign me up. The other, though, is Morgan Frost, just taller. And I want that not at all. Like, no. I think in my head...
Never again.
In my head, I want Brady Martin more than Jake O'Brien.
I'm not smart enough about these prospects to really comment definitively one way or the other on that one. But it seems like Brady Martin at least has more, I guess, aggressive tools that could propel you towards being a competitive hockey team. I don't want to say a Stanley Cup team because that's getting way ahead of us because we have to make damn playoffs first. But being a competitive hockey team that could potentially do some damage in the Stanley Cup one day or in the playoffs one day. He seems like he has more of that, the Mike Richards-ness, the Sam Bennett-ness. I love all that stuff. O'Brien just seems like, you know, to use a Simpsons word, a perfectly cromulent forward.
That's, I heard, I can't remember what show it was on, but somebody on one of the national shows I was listening to compared Brady Martin to Mike Richards. And ever since then, I was like, you know what? I'm much more accepting of this if that's the... Listen, yes, they got Richards at 23. And who knows if he's ever going to be able to score, because Mike had, like, yeah, he was a shutdown guy, a physical guy. He was a pest. He could fight, but also had, like, I think 2 years with 30 goals and 4 seasons over 70 points, I want to say.
Yeah,
like,
but the thing about that draft is
Brady Martin, and that's also like the greatest draft ever.
Well, and the thing about that draft is you got Jeff Carter before that.
And you got Carter at 11.
The thing is, like, you had Carter at 11, so you already had a proven scorer that you knew was going to come in and be a guy who could score in your top 6, no problem, and play center, no doubt, because that size, how could he not? But Richards was more the unknown as far as the offensive ability. So, like, 23, yeah, absolutely take that pick. 6, you need to nail a 6 pick, because we've seen what happens when you don't nail that top 10 pick. You end up with Nolan Patrick, you end up with Cutter Gauthier, you know, you end up with somebody that you're just regretting in a few years. And this is an opportunity for this franchise to be relevant again. You know, they've already got the guy with Mishkov. Mishkov is already the guy, okay? Nobody they draft today is going to be better than him, but...
Would be a shock.
It would be a shock, right? I mean, like, the only guys that really could be, you consider Schaefer, but that's, you're comparing apples and oranges with defense and offense. And then you've got Misa. Misa's the only guy I think who might in the top 6 like be better than Mishkov overall, and I'm even dubious there because I love
we're
Mishkov.
talking about Misa falling, and it is to 3. You know, like
Misa ain't gonna be there. I'm not holding my breath for that.
Yeah, that's just a thing that isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Last thing before we get to super chat, Steve, because you mentioned the idea of taking a goalie, and it was something we talked about, just me, Ant, and VG before Jonesy joined. Like, what is it? Like, there's one goalie with a first round grade, and it's like, yeah, he might go into 20s or even 30 or fall to the second round. Who knows? Why does that happen? And they asked Jonesy, why are teams so reluctant to take a goalie, especially early, like first round goalie? You go, oh, look, a goalie went in the first. Wow, that's the first one in 2 years. Stuff like that. And my answer was because goalies are voodoo. Who the hell knows? Yep, and Jonesy actually had a really good answer that made me think if they pick at 22 or 31 or with one of their early seconds, they could be going goaltender, because Jonesy's answer was, well, so many GMs and organizations look at a goalie and go, it's going to be forever till he arrives. You draft a guy, even if it's not with, you know, a top 10 pick or whatever, he's on your team at 22, 23 at the latest. You know, a goalie is just breaking out then. You know what his potential is. Like, is he even going to play in the NHL? You don't know till he's like 22 or 23. GMs don't have that kind of time. Now,
right.
maybe
think about our other big prospects, right? Like, it took forever to get them up, and we hyped them up so damn much by the time they got here. It was never fair. So it was just like, it's a bad timeline.
We could be misreading how much of a leash Jonesy and Danny have, but I think it's pretty long. I think that Comcast is kind of Dan Hilferty kind of leaning on these two to be the guys. Now, listen, if everything blows up, like, okay, we're going to have a whole new era of Orange again in a few years, but I don't expect that to be the case. I think because of their, at least in my mind, perceived job security, an early goaltender is more palatable to them, because it's like, yeah, man, we're going to be here to see it pay off. And a lot of organizations probably don't have that sort of confidence.
You've got 6 picks in the first 2 rounds.
And
why
they
not?
have so many picks. Why not take a shot?
Well, especially if Ravensburgen's available, right? Like, if he's available at the end of the first round or the end of the first round or the beginning of the second round, do it. Absolutely go for it, because he's the number 1 prospect. Why not? And and that's the thing. You've got like 2 guys, right, in the pipeline right now, because I'm not considering Kolosov in there anymore. I'm done with that guy.
He
But
is as much a part of the team as I am, I think.
yeah, exactly. But you've got Zvragin and you got Bjarnason, right? And it's great to have those bets, right? But goalies are bets.
That's why you need more.
You need more. I would even take, you have so many picks. Why not get a couple goalies, right? That was one of the only good things Ron Hextall did, was he got like kind of one of every different type of goalie, so that, see who pays out. So kind of get some interesting prospects in the pipeline, see who works out ultimately. I really like the two guys that I mentioned, Bjarnason and Zvragin. I think they're really like interesting guys, but you need more. And I think, because you could always do what Nashville did, right, with Eskimo, and trade away and get some valuable assets. So go in and just get Ravensburg. And if he's available at the end of the first round, just do it. There's Alex mentioned a ton of great, like huge defensive guys that you can get with your second round picks that are interesting. Like there's interesting guys throughout this draft. Not the deepest draft, but there's interesting names.
Whether it's at 22 or 31, I would not be shocked by Ravensburg. And with one of their, after obviously number 6, I expect a goalie to go with one of those next 5 picks they have. And I wouldn't be shocked if they get a second one with a late pick, like their 6th or whatever, because they didn't take a goalie last year and they normally take a 1 or 2 as they did a few years ago.
The old Brian Burke pick right there. He loves the late round picks.
My favorite story is he would trade his 7th because he didn't care. He's like, "What? All my scouts are arguing about this thing that isn't going to matter at all, and I want to go to the bar. So I
get a goalie.
I traded it. Yeah, just spend it on a goalie. Listen, Ivan Fedotov, 7th round pick. That worked out.
Get a goalie. Go to the bar. Go to the Tropicana. Wherever. Where are they? Hard Rock this year? In
Hard
AC?
Rock, I believe. Yeah.
All
right, and with that, let's hit those super chats. All right, I think we have a decent number of them today, Julia. So let's try to get through these. From Zach Anderson, 6504. Who's ready for the Flyers to trade up to 4 to take Brady Martin?
I think I'd scream.
Oh, yeah. That would be really funny.
If you trade back to get Brady Martin, I'm into that. I'm fine with that, right? But like, if you trade forward, what are you doing?
No, if you can do like a pick swap and go back and get him and get some other assets, maybe like a young-ish kind of guy, like a Gurbenkin style prospect, like sure. Yeah. I can't imagine they trade up and the trade up is for Brady Martin.
Yeah. Now trade the Islanders want to move up. All right. Trade the 6 for like all their picks for the next like 3 years and be like, all right, come on, let's go.
All right. Let's see that next one. From another one here from Zach. In all seriousness, the Islanders seem desperate for Higgins. Desperate people make stupid decisions. Maybe we can take advantage. I have been thinking about that. I really don't want to move the 6th pick because we're not going to draft any higher than this based on their plan. Now, again, plan could go awry and you're right back here in a year or two. But like right now, based on what they're doing, I can't give up the highest pick we're possibly going to have. Like, yes, Drysdale was the 6th overall, but you gave up the 5th overall and Cutter for him. Yeah, Mishkov, maybe he should have gone 2nd, but he went 7th. You get a little lucky there, but let's get another one of those guys,
Let's get another
Zegras
one of those
was
guys.
a top 10 pick, but this is going to be the guy. This is going to be your highest pick, hopefully, of your homegrown players.
Well, and hopefully if you get Higgins, which, again, fingers crossed on that one, he could be your 1C of the future. Higgins, again, it's worth reiterating that not too long ago, he was the number 1 prospect in this draft. Like, this guy ain't chopped liver.
If Higgins is there at 6, it is maybe not exactly the same as Mishkov, but it's similar. All right, let's hit the next. Okay, from @FlyersChart. My theory is Boston will draft Aitchison. I had them take Mertka yesterday with a surprise pick at 7 overall. Because Mertka's like 6'6", 218. And I said, oh, well, look at that. They finally have their Zdeno Chara replacement. And I want the Flyers to get Aitchison so freaking bad. And with that, we're headed to overtime. Go to allphly.com if you're part of our TV audience for more of the show. There we go. But yeah, Steve, I would not be surprised if Boston goes with one of those guys. Aitchison, I think he's only 6'1", but I think he's like, he's a hitter. He'll knock you out. But I'm hoping he falls a little. Maybe the Flyers can move up and get him.
I'd be into that for sure. I feel like Boston is the Brady Martin destination. Like, I feel like maybe 60, 70% of the mock drafts I've seen have Boston taking Brady Martin. It just seems to make too much sense. I mean, you want to talk about a similar city to Philadelphia, right? Like the Boston attitude.
I mean, they're the big bad Bruins. Yeah.
Yeah. They're the Big Bad Bruins, and they lost to the Broad Street Bullies back in the 70s. That's the only claim to fame I can possibly have. And
in
chip on my shoulder as
2010,
Flyers fan. But
don't mention 2011, which ruined
no, we don't talk about that.
No.
We don't talk about that at all.
Though, hell of a time.
2010, though, hell of a time. But yeah, it feels like Boston, it does really feel like they want to get, and again, this could be just the outsider perspective, right? It could just be I don't know that organization. I don't know the recent trends, but they need a center. And historically, the Boston Bruins do like some big hitters.
I know we've named like 3 guys too. Like at this point, I also think McQueen could be an option for them there because they want the center. He's a big guy.
McQueen's a risk worth taking, I think, once you get past the top 6.
Yes.
You know, if the Flyers were at 7 or 8, I would be okay with that. 6, you're going to get somebody really good.
It's going to be a really good player no matter what. All right, next up here we have from Danny Bean 72. Have fun at the draft party tonight. What do you think the overall fan reaction would be to the following picks? Higgins, Martone, Martin, O'Brien. Higgins, I think, will be mostly loved. There'll be people who like, oh, he fell because he's small, but I don't know. Danny Briere, pretty freaking good. And he's that playmaker. He's that pure playmaker to put with Mish. You have him and Zegras. That is some amazing puck movement on a potential power play. Suddenly that problem might be solved a little bit there.
Yeah.
Martone, not a center, which will disappoint people, but I think they'll look at his size and the different and his versatility, all the ways he can score and go, yeah, would have preferred a center, but they probably got BPA.
I mean, you're getting the best available player if he's available at that point. And I think people will be happy about that. And you can't really complain about the size and the scoring ability with him.
Brady Martin will split the fan base. That will absolutely be the thing that we're arguing about. I will take the positive side and argue with Charlie all summer about it.
Oh, that is the you and Charlie debate pick right there.
Listen, they need better players from a what would make the show good standpoint.
Oh my God.
We could do Brady Martin all July and August, man. Like show's done. I don't need an outline.
Brady Martin was designed in a lab to divide you two.
Yes. And Jake O'Brien, I think a lot of people will be happy about it. He is like 6'1", 6'2", good playmaker. I'm in the minority about Jake O'Brien, and I openly admit, not a draft expert. It won't excite me.
It won't excite me either. It's fine. I'm not going to be like mad about
Probably
it. But
will be a good player.
I'm just going to be like, okay, that's cool. That's probably the least exciting of that group.
Yes, which is what it's going to be then. All right, let's see what we have next from Corey P. Norris. Yesterday, y'all put thought of O'Brien ending up as Morgan Frost 2.0 in my brain, and now I'm terrified of the draft. Yeah, we talked about that. It might have been on the mock draft, which is available on our YouTube page as a separate thing. It might have been on the main show. Might have been both. But I just have this thing like, okay, he doesn't have the best feet. He doesn't play with this pace. He's more of a circle back and survey kind of guy. And I'm like, I don't know. I kept expecting that to work with Morgan Frost for like 4 years. And eventually it was like, it don't.
I think you're living in fear, Bill.
I probably am.
So you've got Morgan Frost against him, and you also have the fact that his first initial is J and his last name is O'Brien. So there's 2 horrific Flyer, and there was a Medvedev mentioned earlier today too.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot of just like triggering names in this
I had to
draft
get
right
over it with Desnoyers. It's like, yeah, and he was like a mid-round pick. This guy's going to go in the top 5. If they get him, he's going to be like, he's good. You got to not worry about that just because it's his name. And O'Brien, it's like, they're not even related. They're not even from the same country.
It's just anti-Irish bias right there. That's all I call that.
It's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. But like
discrimination.
It's anti-Irish discrimination. But Jake O'Brien, I just almost called him Jay O'Brien. I don't know. I don't quite have those fears, but I'm also real dumb about this draft stuff. I have done my research over the past couple months. I think I know an okay amount about these guys, but like, I don't know the amount that like Appleyard and Charlie and Matty Campbell have about it. You know, like people that are just like watching these people.
I would much rather like be wrong or let people know that I am not an expert rather than portray myself as one And then people are, oh, well, you said this.
Yeah.
I say a lot of dumb stuff. Ask my wife.
The crew over at BSH, like, we've got so
Oh.
many people that know draft stuff, and I'm sitting there like, yes, these are names of people.
All right, all right. Let's hit the next. I think we have another here. Yes, from Essel88. Our brother in Crayola, Purple Crayon, is right. Bring us McQueen. I will be skeptical but excited about them deciding he's healthy. Now,
Yes.
big center already hurt. We've seen it with Coots, what the back can do. We saw Nolan Patrick come in injured.
Nolan Patrick's my number one concern here.
The thing with the difference to me is, like, what I have, at least what McQueen has said about this injury is it's a broken bone. Once the bone heals, it's a healed bone. Like, yeah, I guess he could hurt it again, but it's like you break your arm, you could break it again. It's not as if, like,
I'm living proof of that. I've broken
Yes.
my right arm twice.
like Nolan Patrick came in with what was originally a misdiagnosed, they used to call it sports hernia. Now it's core muscle injury. And then they realized he had two, and it was mistreated the whole time. And now we're talking about core muscle, groin. Basically, the thing that holds everything together was injured for 2 years. It's gonna linger. It's gonna hurt him. This back injury, if it's what he's saying, doesn't seem like as big of a risk.
I hope so, because exactly what you just
He's gonna
said.
be the pick.
Exactly what you just said, being the core thing, right? Like, key piece right there.
Yes.
Oh, well, this Lego set is looking great, except the main piece is busted. Like, I don't like that. But again, I'm not a medical expert. And what I said earlier, if the Flyers pick McQueen, it must mean they are really confident about his medical report. It must mean that they think he really is the guy. It is I think I'll be excited, and I'm so excited, I'm so scared is the reaction if McQueen is the pick.
And honestly, like, we've had so much bad freaking luck with these things.
I'm scarred, Bill. These scars remind me.
I'm gonna have my issues with whoever they take, quite honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would have issues with whoever they take, even if it was like number one and it was Schaefer. It's like, well, it could have had Misa. Like,
Yeah. All right. I think we have two more. Let's hit this one here from it's Sean. What the hell does that say?
Just Sean 8046.
Asa Karabarasi, land Hagens, and I'll be mildly optimistic again. I think Hagens is the consensus. Just do it and don't think about it. Like, okay, you got a guy who was really freaking good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, be mildly optimistic anyway. We have Matvei Mishkov. Okay, there's a lot of reasons to be mildly optimistic. Matvei Mishkov, Travis Konechny. You've got an okay defense right now. I would even say a pretty decent defense. You've got pieces. You've got a lot of draft picks tonight. Let's be mildly optimistic, but I'll be more optimistic if they get Hagens, because he'd be the best available at that point.
All right, and I believe this is our last one here from Peel and Onions. First try Tankathon put us at number one. I'm just saying there's a chance.
I pulled up Tankathon mid-pick, and I actually slowed my computer down. So there we go.
Again, like I said to Alex, would be organizational malpractice. Could they, though, if they were so hell-bent on Hagens, be like, yeah, we'll take 6, I don't know, Cam York and 22? Like, I don't know. No, they're not getting the first pick. They're not trading up to 1. That's not happening. I don't even know.
No. They're not trading up to 1. I love Schaefer. Like, I would never complain about Schaefer.
Yeah, no,
but
that'd be awesome.
What if they trade up to 1 to get Misa?
All right, cool.
Play that 4D chess for you.
Yeah. That would really throw the whole draft into like, oh, so everyone's falling.
So from a podcast perspective, that's the most interesting thing to happen.
It is, and
I'm kind of rooting for it now.
We'll be breaking down every interesting thing that does or doesn't happen tonight live at Chickies and Pete's. Make sure you're following us right here on the YouTube page, because the show will be live. We'll be going through the entire first round, unless maybe the Flyers trade those picks and we can get out a little early, but I'm not that lucky. They had 32 last year and they waited till the very last minute. I expect that to happen again this year.
They waited till the very last minute and traded it to this year.
Yes. And then, punted a year ahead, and here we are in the future, ready to make that pick in a few hours. That is all the time we have for you. Again, make sure you're following us right here on the YouTube page. If you can't come to the draft party tonight, watching us live right here is the next best thing. Set that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers, and follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers, and check out that Flyperbole show too. Steve does a pretty damn good job over there, as do all of our BSH brethren. That's it. I am Bill Matz. That is Steve Jaco. Until tonight, be excellent to each other.
We all silly like the mayor.